One of the most fascinating senses, I think, is the sense of touch, because it connects you with the outside world and it connects the outside world with the world of your inner being. When you are truly touched by something, when you are moved, then it moves you into action, so it is reflected in the external world. Obviously, we have different strategies, different ways of using this particular sense. Some of us don't even want to use it at all. Some of us think that if we build up a wall around ourselves, if nothing can touch us, then nothing can hurt us. But obviously, things do hurt us, but then it's a different type of hurt, one that you actually experience as a sense of being frozen inside. So let's just not go there. On the other hand, you may have a strategy that says the best way to touch things is to hit them, is to punch them, is to grab them. So that's an aggressive form of touch where you think that you have to grab something first before they take it away from you, because there is not enough for everybody. You may think you need to punch somebody first before somebody punches you. Or your touch may be very fleeting and careless, because you may have this idea that life is one big competition in which you need to touch as many people and things as possible, and the person with the highest score wins. But there is also another form of touch, a touch that is very gentle, very thoughtful, very respectful, a touch that doesn't grab you, doesn't take anything away from you, but is there only to give, only to make you see, only to make you experience something, even though it may be very scary. It can be very scary, it can make you cringe inside, saying, "No, please, not here, don't touch here." But it's worth it. This Sunday we are meditating Mark 5, verses 21 to 43. When Jesus had again crossed over by boat to the other side of the lake, a large crowd gathered around him while he was by the lake. Then one of the synagogue leaders, named Jairus, came, and when he saw Jesus, he fell at his feet. He pleaded earnestly with him, "My little daughter is dying. Please come and put your hands on her so that she will be healed and live." So Jesus went with him. A large crowd followed and pressed around him. And a woman was there who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years. She had suffered a great deal under the care of many doctors and had spent all she had. Yet instead of getting better, she grew worse. When she heard about Jesus, she came up behind him in a crowd and touched his cloak, because she thought, "If I just touch his clothes, I will be healed." Immediately her bleeding stopped, and she felt in her body that she was freed from her suffering. At once Jesus realized that power had gone out from him. He turned around in the crowd and asked, "Who touched my clothes?" "You see the people crowding against you," his disciples answered, "and yet you can ask, 'Who touched me?'" But Jesus kept looking around to see who had done it. Then the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came and fell at his feet, and trembling with fear, told him the whole truth. He said to her, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering." While Jesus was still speaking, some people came from the house of Jairus, the synagogue leader. "Your daughter is dead," they said. "Why bother the teacher anymore?" Overhearing what they said, Jesus told him, "Don't be afraid, just believe." He did not let anyone follow him except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. When they came to the home of the synagogue leader, Jesus saw a commotion, with people crying and wailing loudly. He went in and said to them, "Why all this commotion and wailing? The child is not dead, but asleep." But they laughed at him. After he put them all out, he took the child's father and mother and the disciples who were with him, and went in where the child was. He took her by the hand and said to her, "Talitha kum," which means, "Little girl, I say to you, get up." Immediately the girl stood up and began to walk around. She was 12 years old. At this they were completely astonished. He gave strict orders not to let anyone know about this and told them to give her something to eat. I guess we all know that the truth will set us free, but it can also be said that the truth heals. Because no matter how hard it is, no matter how it might hurt us, no matter how it might hurt our pride, our ego, our idea of what the world should be like, what we should be like, what other people should be like, the truth ultimately is healing and gives you a sense of safety, a sense of security. It gives you a sense that this world actually makes sense. You may often observe how people who did something wrong keep trying to convince themselves that it was not so bad. They keep trying to tell themselves that they didn't do anything wrong. But in the end, admitting to that, owning that sin or mistake or whatever that was, actually brings you the peace that you were looking for all along. Excuses, the stories that we tell ourselves, may actually turn out to be band-aids. They may turn out to be bad doctors who just prescribe another dose of antibiotics that don't ultimately work. So then we turn to another doctor, then we try to look for another person or another thing that will help us feel better about ourselves. But obviously we are not satisfied, and sometimes we need to use up all our resources. We need to come to this place where we finally had enough, until we pluck up the courage to ask for the truth, until we finally dare to touch the truth. In the Bible, the number 12 has special significance, and one of its symbols is completeness, wholeness. As you probably remember, the 12 tribes of 12 generations of Israel, the 12 disciples, so on and so forth. And this woman was suffering from this hemorrhage for 12 years before she finally touched Jesus. So it seems to me that she really used up all other methods and finally decided to touch him very gently, not even himself, but his garment. And she already had to believe that this person, this walking truth, has the power to heal her. We may wonder why it took her so long if it turned out to have such positive results for her. But I think that quite often the simplest solutions are actually the hardest to accept. Because even though we may agree that the truth will set us free, we may think that the truth about ourselves is unbearable, that it's something that can actually kill us and not heal us. And what matters is what we practically believe, not what we profess in theory. And God is the truth, but it's not a truth that is accusatory in nature. It's not a truth that wants to mortify us, that wants to humiliate us in the negative sense of this word. A truth actually wants to give us life. So when you touch the truth, you touch life, and life flows back into you. And this truth about yourself, the truth about your life, the truth about your relationship with God, it can be like a little girl that has been starved for so long that she's barely alive. Perhaps this little girl in you, or you can take the image of a little boy if you're a man, perhaps this little girl has been punched, hit by other people, and consequently by you yourself because you follow the example of others. Perhaps that's the only touch she has ever known. Perhaps this truth has been treated like that for all her life, entire 12 years, the number of completeness, until the time has come for her to rise. I really like saying that what is once touched cannot be untouched. And there are things in our life that we interpret as punches from this life. And even though our memories can be healed, it somehow stays with us. But also these moments when you touch the truth about yourself and the truth about who God really is, when God touches you in a really gentle way, in a way that moves you to life, you'll never forget this either. And these are the experiences that will bring you back to life. So whenever you have them, whenever you allow the truth to touch you very gently, whenever you touch the truth, feed on these moments. Try to nourish them, try to protect them, don't forget them, because these moments will bring you back to life. And that's something we'll go back to on our meditation on Sunday, 10 p.m. Central European Time. Bye bye.